morning, and afternoon at this point. Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. Feeling a lot better today than I was yesterday. If you were looking for the review of Scream 6 or the review of The Bad Batch newest episode, I apologize. I got very serious, stomach bug or food poisoning or something, or, I just wasn't feeling 100%, to the point where I woke up at 4 in the morning very badly ill, and then I got up and, from about then till, I'm not getting to the details of it, but needless to say, it was not a pretty sight. But regardless, here we are, and we're going to, the schedule's been adjusted. I've pulled 65 and Champions from the release calendar. Tomorrow, probably not now. We might not even do Scream 5 tomorrow, Scream 6 tomorrow. We might move Scream 6 into early next week, to try and offset this kind of clusterfuck we're in right now. Maybe we'll do that Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll have Shazam. It's just not a great situation all around. But yeah, so, needless to say, I'm better today. I'm still not good enough to risk going and sitting in a theater for 2.5 hours, because I don't trust anything going on right now. But regardless, here we are. So we're going to talk about The Bad Batch briefly, while I'm out running errands. And The Bad Batch is going to be, I think this is one of the stronger episodes this season, because it is not really filler. It is, it's a kind of story that it's entirely self-contained for the most part. Because if you don't know who Crosshair is, you can still kind of understand what's going on here, where he is just a clone who is part of the decommissioning of the clones, and how the Empire has been, we're at a point now where the Empire has been decommissioning the cloning program, and as a result of decommissioning the clone program, they are slowly phasing out the clones, and as the clones are unable to perform their duties, they are being put out to pasture or whatever. And then here we have, and they're being replaced with the conscripted army. And the rationale for the conscripted army has been since season 1, clones will not commit atrocities against people the way a conscripted army will, because the clones are programmed to maintain the peace and do X, Y, and Z. If something doesn't fit that narrative, they won't do it, because it's outside of their training. At the same time, a conscripted army of people who are there because they love the Empire, because they have this deep-seated, patriotism, for lack of a better word, toward the Empire. They'll go out and commit atrocities against their own people, at the beck and call of the Empire. And that is kind of where this is. And they do it where it's like, oh, the cloning facility got destroyed, so we need a new system, so we need a new standing army. And you get that episode where it's in the Senate, and it's all Senate hearings, and it's well, we can't have a standing army because what does that move? And that whole 2-episode arc is great. Go back and watch those if you haven't. But here we have these, we have Crosshair being dispatched to help this other guy, this Imperial guy, on this outpost, and they're told to go out there and defend this cargo. And they go out there, and this Imperial is just a complete asshole to everyone. All the clones who are still alive, because they keep dying of freezing to death, or being killed in raids, or anything like that, and they just continually die. So Crosshair's out with them, and Crosshair starts to bond with this other clone, who's out there, and, they go out on a mission together, and it's just, Crosshair's entire character arc in this is just so well done. I think that really elevates this episode for me, because it's very much Kino Loy in Nobody's Listening. It is him looking at, it's him, I'm not going to help you, 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 and then you get to the end of the episode, and you see the, what's it called, you get to, the guy dies, and he watches it, and the other medic is like, look, there's nothing I can do to help. It's just kind of, we just gotta kind of, ease his suffering, and then they use it, and it's just a torturous way to go. And he asks one more time, and he's like, how many guards are there? And he says never more than 4 or something like that. And it's just like, it's such a great moment. And I think that this is kind of the same thing, where Crosshair has within this one episode that kind of great character arc where he's like, look, I'm here to do a mission, I'm here to help the Empire, I'm here to do this, I'm here to do this. And then, we get to that point where it's like they're talking about one of them carrying the other back while they're on this mission to retrieve the cargo that's been stolen. And he's like, okay, so what are we gonna, I'm not going to carry you back if you die. And he's like, oh, well, remind me not to die and get seriously hurt in front of you. It's like, this would just slow me down. And then it's like, as the episode goes on, and as they go and they bond over, the guy saves his life from a mine, and they go and they do this raid on this village, and they find what the Empire, what the cargo was, which is new stormtrooper uniforms for the new army. And which is just such a slap in the face that they keep dying over that. And there's an avalanche as a result of their raid, and the other clone gets seriously hurt, so Crosshair has to carry him back. It's such a great moment to have that happen. I mean, granted, Crosshair definitely would have died of exposure, because he's walking around without a helmet or anything in this incredibly cold weather, but whatever. He carries him back, and they get back to camp, and he's like, do something. He needs medical attention. And he's like, no, I'm not giving him medical attention. Now you go and help us out, or we're going to put you there too. And he just fucking shoots the guy. And I'm like, that is such a great ending. And I think part of why that episode works so well is, I mean, look, granted, it is kind of the exact same thing as that other episode of Andor that I really love. That whole show is just so good, though. I mean, this episode made me want to go back and watch Andor. And I think that's where the Bad Batch works best, is kind of doing kind of that similar thing, but animated and on a different scale. And it is, it is kind of like, this is all about showing that even the beginnings of the Empire's bureaucracy, which is what the Empire is, it's a bureaucratic dictatorship, but even showing the beginnings of that have cracks, and things aren't working properly within those ranks, and it's even that is working so well to this show. And it does piggyback of what we saw in Andor, and I think that's really why this show is such a success when it works. Granted, that said, when we get to episodes where we have characters who are, oh, and here we are just going on a mission, yay, mission time, that kind of thing works less well, but it's still not terrible. But we'll wrap up there for today. And our next episode will be on tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be doing definitely All That Breathes. Definitely All That Breathes. Beyond that, I'm not 100% certain. But until then, have a great rest of your week.